at 4 p.m., May 26, 2016. Today's high temperature of 85 degrees occurred at 1:39 p.m. This high was 3 degrees below the normal high of 88. The record high is 94 degrees, which was set at 1949. Today's low temperature of 73 occurred at 6:09 a.m. This low is 1 degree below the normal low of 74. The record low is 65 degrees, which was last set in 1950. The mean temperature was 79 degrees and was 2 degrees below the normal of 81. A trace of precipitation fell today, which brings the monthly total to 8.18 inches. This is 4.10 inches above the normal amount of 4.08 inches for May. There were no heating degree days today, and there were 14 cooling degree days today.
Here is the hazardous weather outlook for South Florida. For today and tonight, the currents. There is a moderate risk of rip currents along the Atlantic beach.
Hey guys, Anthony here. It's Thursday, May 26, 2016. Tonight's video is a continuation of my hurricane series, a hurricane/disaster series. And in tonight's video, I am using the Broward County, Florida, official hurricane preparedness guide that I have here that you see on the screen. And within this guide is a lot of information regarding hurricanes in Broward County, Florida. But depending on where you live, whether it's in a hurricane-prone area of the country, an area that is prone to earthquakes or maybe more tornadic activity like they're having now in Kansas, I believe, your county or your state will have a guide, more than likely, and it's a good starting point for you to get and to number one, to print out and to have. I have this printed out in a binder with some other materials, and I update it each year because sometimes the shelter numbers change or emergency numbers change. And it's just a good starting point to make sure your hurricane plan is being put into place properly. So within this guide, and we're not going to read every page, but we're going to look at each page and comment on some things. I'll put the link to this one in the description box, and if you're in Broward County, Florida, or in this area, you can it'll definitely be helpful. And even if you're not, it's still helpful in the fact that the way it's set up and the way some of the wording is, it's basically can apply to many different disasters, not just hurricanes. So on page 1 here, it talks about developing a hurricane plan, and it goes through the various steps to discuss that. Over on the left-hand side here, it talks about hurricane season being June 1st through November 30th, which is a pretty long time. And that's going to start this next Wednesday, in fact, here. So, and there's already a storm or disturbance in the Atlantic that they're keeping an eye on. If you haven't watched the Weather Channel or the news, you'll probably see it. They're talking about it heading to the East Coast somewhere this weekend, holiday weekend. So it's something to keep an eye on. There's also a lot of activity in Kansas and some other areas with storms. So this is this could be a big weekend for weather events. So moving into the plan here, it goes through and it talks about developing a plan, and that's what all preppers should be doing. And this can help preppers in their areas as well, something like this. In fact, with me, and back in 2005, I basically started prepping because of a bad hurricane we had that put us down for, well, where I lived, over a week, but in some other areas, several weeks were down with power and, water, no water. That was Hurricane Wilma back in 2005. So that's what spurred me really to become more of a prepper and to get more advanced than what I was. So sometimes it takes a disaster to get you on the ball. So this page here, page 2, talks about, the plan, and it goes through the 10 different steps. And page 3, I think, is an important page. It talks about planning for the storm's approach on the left-hand side. But on the right-hand side here, where the hurricane kit checklist is, I think this is good. This is one of many different types of checklists, but it's pretty comprehensive, and you can tailor it to your own situation. But it's a starting point, and that's what a lot of people need. Now, what do I do? What do I put in a bag? What do I store in a tote that I could grab and throw in my car, or a bucket? And here it is. Here's a bullet point list you could print out and just go through it. Canned food, 3 to 5, water per person, a gallon per person per day. It just goes on down the list. Paper goods, first aid kits, medicines, prescription drugs, which are very important. There's a law in Florida, I believe, that if there is a pending, storm coming, you're allowed to get a 30-day supply of prescription drugs refilled. Drugs that you need for, different ailments that you have. This talks about getting cash and, going to ATMs. You don't want to be running to an ATM in the middle of or right before a storm hits, because more than likely they're going to be empty. So you do this stuff ahead of time, and you could put some money aside, and you could even put money in your kit. So, in a waterproof bag or something. So this planning for the storm's approach is very good. It's organized. And again, you could use it for, aside from the numbers that are, for Broward County area here, you can use this anywhere in the country, basically, some of the steps here. Okay, before the storm approaches, again, it goes through the different types of the hurricane watch, the warning, and here the storm surge. I was watching a show the other night, and a lot of people get hooked on, it's not a big wind event, and therefore I'm not going to prepare, and they forget about the storm surge. If you remember with Hurricane Sandy, storm surge, I think, was one of the biggest issues of that storm, Hurricane Sandy. It wasn't so much the winds, although the winds were bad. The storm surge is what pushed all the water onto land and did a lot of damage. So on the left here, it talks about shelter registration, and that's important, knowing where the shelters are in your area and knowing where they are, how to get there, what the closest one to your house is. Do I have to register? Do I have any special needs that they need to know about? And you could do that here in Broward County ahead of time. It gives you all the information, so there's really no excuse. Pet-friendly shelters. We're gonna be doing this for our pets sometime, probably next week, with the Humane Society, where we're going to register our pets so they can be brought to the shelter with us, an approved shelter with us, in the event that we ended up at a shelter in the future. Again, special preparations for disabled, if you're a disabled person, and Broward does a really good job on putting this out and putting this together. Things like safeguarding your home. It goes pretty much step by step on what to do, what to look for, protecting your pool, hurricane proofing your business. Where I work, I'm part of a team that is responsible to prepare for a hurricane that's going to hit, and we have to do certain things at certain points before the storm, and a lot of it takes a lot of planning, a lot of manpower, a lot of materials, and the decisions have to be made well before a storm even hits. Sometimes, we'll go through the whole exercise, and then the storm won't even hit, or it'll take a jog to the north or to the south or whatever, and we've gone through thousands of dollars of preparations, distributing supplies and materials, and hiring subcontractors and bringing them in. But the exercise is very good to go through because when the big one hits or something hits, and it just gives you that feeling that you've done the right thing. So we've had many false alarms that we've got ready for, and then some that weren't as strong as what they said they were, but at least we were ready for it in case. This goes on to talk about evacuations. You should know your evacuation routes. If you're in a evacuation prone area, like you'll see here in a further page, it shows you where in the Fort Lauderdale area, at least, those areas are. And of course, they're near the water, and then up to a certain point, depending on the storm surge that's expected, you need to get out of those areas and go either inland more, or north or south, or away from where the area is going to get hit. And again, there's Broward has bus transportation to shelters. Okay, this is an important map right here. Before the storm, hurricane evacuation map. This is something I print out, or you should print out if you're in an area that has shelters. And on the left here, it gives you a little checklist of, you can't just bring anything into a shelter. So this gives you a little checklist on what you need to bring. Some stuff you may have to leave in your vehicle, but some stuff you could bring in the shelter, and it shows you here what that is. The American Red Cross in our area has the 14 shelters right here with the addresses. You could plug them in, the closest ones to you. You could plug them in your phone or your GPS device, or visit them prior and know how to get there and know where they are exactly, where the entrances are. But prior to an event, the Red Cross will be there with signage, and people there manning those shelters. So, and then here's a map of the area where those correlate to. Then it goes on here, pets and shelters, what you need to know. And, unless your dog is a service animal, an approved service animal, they cannot just go to any shelter. They have to go to a pet-friendly shelter. So that's something you've got to take into an account if you have pets, like I do. Homeless shelters, again, there'll be transportation in Broward County. And then it goes into riding out the storm, how to retreat to a safe room, different things you have to do, different safety things they want you to do. A little section here for kids, okay? After the storm, what to do. Many times after a storm, a lot of people get hurt or killed, or they'll step on power lines, or walk outside and fall in a hole, or get hit by a tree that's already fallen. Just things that can be hazardous to you, and you want to be cognizant of that, and you want to know take those different precautions. Chainsaw safety tips, generator tips. How many people run generators during a storm or after the storm, and they don't vent through their house right, and they end up getting sick, or sometimes people even die of carbon monoxide poisoning. Flooding hazards, walking into waters that you don't know how deep they are, or getting stranded in them. There's different things. They can have an electric power line down in the water. You never know what's going to happen. Water that's contaminated, from the tap, you may not be able to drink from, and it goes, this guide kind of takes you through that. Where it says here, talking about making water safe to drink. And again, this is all information that preppers, would need anyway. And it's all here in this, 12-page guide. And it could actually get you a good start to, to getting you more prepared. And that's basically what my series this year is going to do. So picking up the pieces, this is like afterwards, talks about dealing with contractors, disaster recovery resources, where to put debris, how to bag it. It's pretty well organized. I really like how they lay this out here. Pretty easy to understand. And again, you could also go on their website. There's tons of material on the Broward website that you could either print off or get information from. And again, it has numbers here for the CERT team, United Way, American Red Cross, just some different things. And then also important numbers, FEMA hotline. Everything's in kind of one nice little 12-page packet here that you can print out and have with you. Because something like this, you don't want to be, you don't want to be after the fact looking for a preparedness guide while the storm is looming down on you. You want to get this stuff, in-house. Go through your lists, go through what pertains to you and your situation, and get your kit together. A kit is very important. Band-aids, first aid, food, water, shelter, tarps, the different things. Make sure your car is, full of gas. Make sure it's running properly. Get that oil changed now, to take you through the first couple months. Make sure your tires have the right pressure in them. Don't let your tank during hurricane season or any time go to empty. When it gets to half full, go get gas again. Little things like that make a big difference if you had to evacuate. You don't want to evacuate and have to know that, your car's on E and now there's lines to gas stations, and now that could hamper your evacuation. And whenever you are dealing with lots of people in one spot that are waiting for gas or whatever it may be, tempers can flare, things can happen. It's all stuff that could be avoided if you plan ahead of time. And that's the point I want to drive home with this video, is to pre-plan. There's lots of material in the area where you live, I'm sure. Look for it, do a Google search, print it out, ask your coworkers at work. But there's all different ways you can get this information. Even on the news, they'll give website information or whatever. And go to it, print it out, and go through the checklist and don't just print it out and throw it in your house and not do it. Put your kits together and get your affairs in order. Even things like taking pictures of what's inside your house or your apartment, and put it on a disk or a jump drive and have it, so in case the storm destroys your furniture or your TVs or valuables, you have pictures of it for insurance purposes. I'm getting ready to rescan my driver's license and important documents and making sure the hard disk that I have is updated with that electronically, in case those paper assets get hurt or destroyed or lost during a storm. So that's my video tonight, guys, on hurricane preparation, and it could be applied to a lot of different disasters, not just hurricanes, this guide. So let me know what you think, questions, comments, and we'll be more hopefully this weekend we'll get some more videos up on preparedness for these type of events. Thanks for watching. Anthony signing off. Stay ready.